And welcome to Cloud Insiders, the podcast that brings cloud down to earth, brought to you by Xtravirt. Today is a tech focus episode where we bring you the tools, tips and tricks to make your life in the cloud easier. Today we are talking about VMware's vRealize Automation 8. We are joined by Sam Perrin from Xtravirt's Cloud Automation practice. Hi Sam.
Hiya.
So, what can you tell us about VRA 8?
So it's recently been released as an on-premises version of Cloud Automation Services, which is actually now called vRealize Automation Cloud. So that was born as a SaaS offering by VMware to go side by side with their VMC on AWS sort of offering as well. But yeah, now it's on-premises, complete redesign compared to version 7, because it has been a big rewrite. Infrastructure-wise, it's now all container-based, so we can get rid of the Windows IaaS box, and we deploy the appliance now through an easy installer, and that easy installer deploys your lifecycle manager, and then that lifecycle manager then deploys your vRealize Automation appliance and your identity manager appliance, and it does that within an hour or so now, compared to a whole day or whatever it used to be with previous versions.
As you say, it's just been released and there's been quite a lot of hype. Do you reckon it's living up to the hype? Is it still the best thing since sliced bread?
There's a lot of stuff missing. If you compare the features from 7 to 8, there's things missing which I think bigger enterprises will probably be impacted on. Maybe from a new thing and a new toy and all that sort of stuff. It's so far it's been awesome. It's just for me it's reignited like the kind of excitement around the VRA appliance. Really, it's completely fresh. It's all done within the portal, HTML5, no Flash or whatever it used to be, or JavaScript. So the VRO client itself is now also in a HTML5 portal.
Okay.
So that came about in 7.6, but now it's fully HTML5 now in 8. You can get to the VRO appliance through the same kind of portal and manage it all through there. You can see the runs, workflow runs. It's all kind of integrated, and it just seems a lot more streamlined than what it has been in the past.
Yeah. So you said that it's kind of missing a couple of features that maybe you would have got with VRA 7. Do you reckon that's going to cause people to delay moving a little bit, or do you reckon they'll still jump on it because shiny new and containerized?
Yeah, shiny new. There's a lot of hype from VMware about it, and rightly so. Container thing is, well, we know it's massive at the moment, and the fact that they've kind of utilised those, and it's kind of built on Kubernetes, the fact they've utilised that for this, it makes the whole scaling out side of things a bit simpler. The infrastructure is now more, I suppose, tightly contained, makes things a bit simpler, and from a deployment point of view. No, I don't think it's going to stop people at all. I think they're still going to move across, and they'll kind of work around those missing features as and when it comes against it.
Okay, so we've kind of said what you can't do, or suggested there's things that you can't do, but what can it do? What can you do now that you couldn't do before?
I guess the biggest thing is, well, the one that I've come across is the cloud agnostic blueprints. Mm-hmm. So previously you would have to maybe create a blueprint that deployed to AWS, or one to Azure, and then one to your on-premises vSphere. Now in those blueprints you can just drag on this cloud agnostic canvas item, set your configuration on that, and using constraints you can deploy the same blueprint to AWS, Azure, vSphere without having to then redevelop or reclone or whatever you need to do for various blueprints. It makes the whole management a lot easier, and you can also then, in that cloud agnostic stuff, you've got the compute, which is obviously your virtual machine, your network and your storage. So those three kind of features, you can go to any cloud, and it just makes things a lot simpler for you. You've got, I suppose, what we couldn't do before, it's a lot more event-based now. Previously you would create a custom property, and that custom property would then trigger these event-based subscriptions in VRA. Now what you do is you create your subscriptions again, but you can then link those subscriptions to actions or workflows, and you trigger them through various things in your blueprint. So for example, in our blueprint we could create a tag, and that tag could be get IP address, or that tag could be deploy to production, or run Ansible. And those three tags link to different subscriptions. So those subscriptions are then filtering based on data that comes into them. And if those three things match, it will run different events and workflows to do different things.
Okay.
So then you could go back into the workflow once it's deployed, edit your tags, add another tag in there to, let's say, maybe deploy a website in simple terms. That new tag will then trigger another event, and it will just run. So it's the way it's structured. It's very kind of nice and streamlined. Although it's, again, that's quite a big change to get your head around.
Yeah.
But when you do, it's you can see the potential there.
I was going to say, I mean, the way you explained it makes it sound like it's a whole lot easier to use, and it's just kind of like if someone changes requirements, you literally just go back to that stage and say, right, that more tag, that new tag.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. A challenge with it has been the fact that it's obviously so new. There is not a lot of documentation out there. So trying to find references on how to do things is quite a challenge. So there in VRA, you've got the ABX components, which is the action-based extensibility sort of modules.
Okay.
They use two different runtimes, which is Python and Node.js. Quite a bit of the VMware documentation has examples with Python, and a few of the people you can talk to at VMware, they all sort of suggest using Python and things, which is cool. But I'm used to Node.js from a, I suppose, application point of view. Trying to find examples of how that's been used in ABX has been a challenge.
Yeah.
So things such as like your async await or your callbacks and stuff, getting those to work as you would expect in your app that you've developed, and then ABX, there's differences. So it's just, that's the biggest challenge I've had so far is working out what is actually possible in those actions.
Yeah, so one that before I record one of these things, I try and research, and there is just not a whole lot out there at the moment, is there?
No, there isn't.
Yeah, especially for a simpleton like me, trying to get your ducks in a row, it's pretty tricky. So, I mean, going beyond just VRA 7 to VRA 8, what did we used to do before automation, way back in the day? Before VRA happened, was it just pen, paper, and...
I guess you had things like PowerShell, bash scripts, that kind of stuff. That was, I suppose, early automation. Now it's more focused around sort of the user. Yeah. Making it easier for the user. So you would, give them a portal or something where they can request what they want, that kind of thing. So I think that's the biggest thing that VRA enables in regards to automation. But before that, like I said, scripts, or you just did stuff manually through a GUI or a CLI and just documented things, backed up your config and hope things didn't go wrong. Whereas now we can treat the infrastructure as disposable and recreate it when we need to. Yeah.
Can everyone take advantage of VRA 8? I mean, what's its use cases? And
definitely. If an organisation is looking to do automation and do it in a controlled way, VRA 8 is definitely a tool that needs to be looked at. In terms of use cases, you've got multi-cloud. As I said, around the whole agnostic stuff, you can now go to Azure, AWS, on-premises environments. You've got the whole DevOps side of things. So now, I suppose everything is, or DevOps and IAC, I suppose everything is now kind of code-based. So you just write out what you want and it will give you that. So for example, on the canvas, you can drag items from the left into the canvas, and on the right-hand side, you'll see the code equivalent of what you dragged onto the canvas. Okay. So if you drag 2 or 3 machines on the right-hand side in your YAML code, you'll see 2 or 3 machines. And within that code, you can then customize what you want. So you can change how many machines you do using the count. You can apply custom properties, and those custom properties come back into the whole action-based stuff that I mentioned earlier. So you could have 3 machines on your canvas, only 2 of them have a certain property, which means those actions only run against those 2 machines. So that's a good use case. It's the whole DevOps, IAC type stuff where everything is now code-based. And then ultimately you've got the whole Kubernetes cluster management as well. So you can hook up VRA to your cluster, and you can provision workloads into your Kubernetes cluster and manage stuff through there as well. Yeah. So there's some good use cases.
And is there any kind of minimum requirement? I mean, you're saying how it's agnostic to clouds, but do you have to be running vSphere?
Obviously, so the on-premises version is deployed into vCenter. So you obviously need a few hosts, vCenter, that kind of stuff. The standalone box is quite chunky. I can't remember what the CPU count requirements are, but memory-wise, it needs 32 gig, and maybe 200 gig of storage. Once it's deployed, that's just the VRA appliance. That's not including Lifecycle Manager and the Identity Manager that it needs. So it's quite chunky, but that I think they've done it so it's that size, so that it covers, I suppose, 90% of the target audience in terms of enterprises and organisations and stuff. So they're the minimum requirements. So a ton of RAM, vCenter, vSphere. As I said earlier, you run this easy installer, which is an ISO-based installer that deploys all the requirements you need. DNS is another one, so you obviously standard stuff. You need to have your DNS records set up and ready. Yep. But it's pretty straightforward. You don't need to know any Kubernetes management side of things. I think if something goes wrong within the VRA appliance from a Kubernetes point of view, that's where VMware support would come in and help you, that kind of thing.
Okay.
From a consumer or an IT point of view, it's the same as any other OVF, OVA that you deploy.
So, from the point of view of an automation specialist, the behemoth of genius that you are, what are you most excited about in VRI8?
I just like the fact that it's so focused around kind of the whole developer, DevOps, IAC kind of thing. The API that wraps around it all as well is just it feels so much more structured and planned compared to what it has been in the past. Where it's been rewritten, I think it's been rewritten in with those things in mind. Consuming stuff is, I don't know, it just seems straightforward now. You haven't got to go through various different menus to kind of find some sort of convoluted relationship to some item you've deployed. It's kind of everything you need is there. The way you deploy to certain environments or with certain requirements is all straightforward. Even though I said there's no documentation, it's
more focused, more user friendly.
Yeah, exactly, and it kind of just makes sense. Like you haven't got to kind of guess where something is because it's just nicely made.
The UX UI guys are just sat there going, yes, someone gets us.
Yeah. But no, I think that's what I'm most excited about, and the fact it's all kind of the fact it was so easy to deploy, I think, and it's just getting rid of that Windows box as well. No reliance on that is good.
So you say about the Windows box, which is a possible previous pitfall. Are there any pitfalls or things like that people need to be aware of before going down the VRA8 route? Or?
I suppose if you're starting with automation, you're not necessarily going to miss any features from the previous one because you don't know what they are. You never used it. But
we'll just say they weren't there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think so. From a new consumer point of view, pitfall-wise, documentation is the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't a huge amount of it. The guest OS customization type stuff now, so this uses this cloud init, cloud config type thing. Awesome when it comes to CentOS. I've not used it on Windows. I think you can kind of get some installer on Windows which then allows you to use this cloud init config thing. So that's different, whereas previous versions have used software components. I don't know if that's a pitfall, but it's just very different. Again, no documentation on it really. So it's quite a challenge to find something to refer to. Existing customers, I guess the biggest pitfall is the feature parity. It's not there yet. A few enterprise kind of organizational features maybe around kind of your business groups and that kind of security divide, that's kind of missing to some extent in VRA8. You can kind of manage it through projects, and in projects you can assign permissions and access to certain things, and you can create policy-based access and that sort of stuff. So it's kind of there, but it's very different to how it's been done in the past.
Just a little couple of extra layers of waffle to get to where you want to be.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it's just I wouldn't go into it thinking that it's going to be exactly the same and a refreshed GUI or anything. It's completely different.
Yeah.
You shouldn't expect to be able to go from your VRA 7X environment straight into 8. You kind of need to, I guess, gradually move bits over to that, redevelop it, rework it, get it working. So it's kind of using the ABX stuff with VRA8 and things. So
So that's actually take me quite nicely onto the next one, which is how straightforward, if you were looking to treat it as an upgrade from 7 to 8, is there anything there? How easy is it to deploy? So if we touch on the deployment stuff, because I know we've mentioned it already, but if we go over it in a bit more detail maybe. So when you want to start with VRA8, you download this ISO, which is about 10 gig in size. That ISO has a executable, which is the easy installer. So you run that, and you then get a portal, and that portal asks for some key information. You fill it in, press go basically, and first thing it will do is deploy you a lifecycle manager appliance automatically, and it will set it up. Mm-hmm. Once that's then deployed, the next step that it does again automatically is deploy your identity manager appliance. Mm-hmm. Once that's then deployed, it automatically deploys the VRA8 appliance and hooks them all up together. So that's the easy installer. It takes about an hour.
and it's literally you fill in this one form and press go, and it does it all for you. You can, I think, consume existing identity manager and lifecycle manager appliances, but if you haven't got any of those, then that's the way to do it. And I think VRA 8 requires itself to be deployed via lifecycle manager. Right. So lifecycle manager, I suppose coming back to the minimum requirements, lifecycle manager is one of them.
Okay.
And then it deploys. In regards to upgrades, there is no migration path that I'm aware of to go from 7.6 into 8. However, there is a migration assessment tool within the VRA 8 appliance, which kind of checks your existing workflows and tells you if they're good enough to be migrated or not. But I think that the scope of that assessment is quite limited, and it kind of relies on you doing stuff in a certain way within your existing workflows. So if you've done anything complicated or out of the box, that kind of thing, it kind of might not assess it properly. So yeah, even though it might tell you it's okay or not, I think they should still be individually assessed and then migrated, and you do like a gradual move across, I reckon. Don't expect to go immediately to 8 and expect all your stuff to be there. I would kind of
pull across.
Migrate across. I think it wouldn't surprise me if in later versions they come out with a proper migration tool which will get you from 7.6, whatever it is, over to 8 and future versions. But at the moment it's not there. And
with your VMware hat removed in the richer world of tools, do you reckon there's anything that could be scripted or written to kind of take your VRA 7s, run a bit of remediation, make sure there's anything going for it, and then shift it across?
Probably, but whether you'd want to, I don't know. I guess for me, it kind of, where VRA 8 is so now kind of focused on this tag-based, event-driven stuff, for me it makes sense to kind of look at your existing things and migrate them into that new structure, the ABX Vero kind of structure, and associate that with subscriptions and tags and that kind of thing. To do that automated, I think it would probably like just pull out your existing stuff and just bang it straight into Vero and not necessarily take advantage of the new features and new capabilities. So yeah, although it probably is possible, from what I've seen at the moment, I would probably look at rewriting stuff and taking that as an opportunity to tidy things up as well, and actually look at how users consume those catalog items and blueprints and make them better at the same time.
Yeah, like it. That's good consumer advice, that one. I've tried to steer everywhere that I can with my limited knowledge. Is there anything else that you'd like to add about VRA 8 and the wonders that it's brought to your world?
I would not be afraid of deploying it. I would just get it out there, play around with it. I think because it's, as we keep saying, it's such a change. It's one of those products where I think we now have the opportunity to deploy it separately to what we already have, get it set up, get it working how we want it to work, and then assess whether it's going to be fit for purpose in the business, and then make a plan around moving across to it. At the same time, if a customer has an investment in VRA already, whether that's version 7 or 8, whatever, if it's assuming it's 7, don't let the fact that 8 is already out stop you deploying 7 if that's all you have access to. There's no, you should definitely get started with the automation and get people consuming stuff through VRA, and then manage that move across to 8 when it comes to it.
Perfect. So kind of in summary, we're saying that the VR8, big, shiny, it is the future. Don't be scared of it. Don't delay your move. But if you are with 7 and it's all you've got to play with, then
keep using it. Keep making the most of it, definitely. And over time, VMware, as they always do, will work out a way of getting you from 7 to the new shiny product. So stick with it.
And just in your expert opinion, how long do you reckon it'll take to get to feature parity with 7?
Not sure. I think a lot of it, because it's born out of the vRealize Automation Cloud, which is the SaaS product, that's getting a lot of innovation quite a bit more frequently. So we're probably going to see features in that first before we then get it on premises. I don't know what their release cycle is going to be for on premises, but I think if it comes out in the SaaS product, we're going to get it in the on premises product. I wouldn't like to put a date on the feature parity stuff. But again, it might not even be feature parity. It might just be a change in the way you do stuff. I think, again, as time goes on, more documentation is going to come out around best practice and what you should and shouldn't do. So that's probably going to help a lot of people on board as well.
Yeah. Well, that's absolutely brilliant. I've already asked you if there's anything you'd like to add, and you added it. So, Sam, if people would like to get hold of you, how would they go about doing that if they wanted to chat to you about VRA8 or anything about the wider automation sphere?
Yeah, best place is probably, two places. My Twitter, which is Sam_Perrin, Perrin, or my Xtravirt email address, which is sam.perrin@xtravirt.com.
Brave man, that's about to get spammed like hell. That's absolutely great. If anyone would like to reach out or follow me, I am CI_Stu on Twitter. You can follow Cloud Insiders at Cloud Insiders on Twitter. You can find us on iTunes or Spotify, and we're now on podcasts on Android. All of our old episodes are on YouTube. And if you want to find anything, you can find us on cloudinsiders.fm. If you've got any ideas for future episodes or you just want to say hi, then you can contact us on team@cloudinsiders.fm. Thank you so much for listening, and speak to you soon.